Hello and welcome to another episode of Paydirt Remote. Today I'm joined by Ken Brinsden, Managing Director of Pilbara Minerals. Ken, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be with you, Dom.
We're all in a very strange situation these days with the coronavirus and the pandemic spreading across the world. But Pilbara Minerals has had a really big win this week. You've signed a new offtake agreement for your Pilbara project up in the Pilbara. Can you explain a bit about the offtake agreement, and also is this an indication that perhaps China's at the start of its industrial recovery?
Yeah, just as the Western world and Australia, of course, is being impacted by the spread of the coronavirus, China, on the face of it, is in fact getting back to work. Our experience in dealing with China during the course of this year so far has been actually really constructive. Our observation is that credit has continued to flow, the logistics has continued to progress, albeit perhaps a little bit slower than the historical norm. But as we sit here today, China is very much about getting back to business, and that has been our experience. And I guess the new offtake agreement is at least in part demonstration of that fact.
The situation has changed a little bit. Initially, we were a bit worried about how it would affect our exports. Now we're worried about how we can continue to export in the face of this. What strategies have you put in place for Pilbara Minerals and how you handle the pandemic?
Oh yeah, we're really sensitive, as I'm sure every mining company is around Australia and in Western Australia, to the health and safety and hygiene of our employees. So we've really stepped up the level of pre-screening that's going on prior to the commencement of work on site, especially for our fly-in and fly-out workforce and for our contractors. We're making sure that to the extent it's possible, we're getting everyone at site to practice social distancing, and that affects the way that we operate the wet mess and or the gyms or even the dry mess for the purpose of meals. So yeah, look, big changes going on for everyone involved, and I'm sure the industry is working really hard to make sure that we lift our weight in respect of the community's expectations around what we do to look after not just our people, but the broader communities within which we work. Pilbara Minerals is perhaps in a little bit of a special position in the sense that we were already operating in a campaign mode prior to the effect of the coronavirus. So that's given us perhaps a little bit more flexibility as to what we do with our people in and around the site. So not quite business as usual. I wouldn't describe it in that way at all, but nonetheless not so disruptive that we're not able to maintain some continuity of operations. And my sense is that's probably true for most mining operations around Western Australia.
Can you mention that you've gone to a campaign basis for mining and processing at Pilbara? Can you just explain the rationale behind that?
Yeah, well, demand conditions have been weak over the last 9 months. There's no denying that fact, and that had been driven by particularly Chinese domestic consumption of lithium raw materials, which in turn had meant that there'd been a general softening in the market, and that was affecting underlying demand. That had meant that we could not operate the mine at full capacity, and actually that's still true to this day. I guess we think whilst that's a difficult decision, it's also logical to ensure that you're matching the mine production to the underlying demand. And I think you'd find most operators, most spodumene miners in and around WA are doing some sort of campaigning or moderated production in their own way. Where does it go from here? Well, look, in many respects, that's the million-dollar question. I'm reasonably certain that China is a very, very important player, not just in respect of lithium consumption in the domestic market in China, but also in serving global markets. Our key customers and key strategic partners, the likes of Ganfeng and General Lithium and CATL being a significant shareholder in Pilbara Minerals, are still very active in expanding capacity in anticipation of the importance of the new supply coming to market, particularly, we would say, for the latter part of this year and next year. So we still think we're in the right industry. We've just got to tough it out for a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's well, maybe that reset that we're seeing across the global economy might actually pay benefits in the long run. On the operations side of things, Ken, despite being on a campaign basis, you've actually had a couple of wins, particularly in your lithium recoveries. Can you explain a little bit about how you've been able to improve that performance?
We really pleased and actually really proud of the team's efforts in that regard. We've come a long way. So historically, it had always been a big tick in the box in respect of the product quality. The plant had pretty much from day one always delivered the right specification. The throughput in the plant has been demonstrated to be really strong, so we're confident in the plant's ultimate capacity. The problem child, if you want to put it that way, had been recovery, where we knew there were some challenges in the plant that required resolution. Key things relating to free iron removal as the plant wears, the steel plates in steel balls in ball mills, that type of thing. You've got to get that steel out or iron out before it goes into flotation, otherwise it poisons the lithium flotation. So amongst all the projects that we've delivered, the end result has been a material improvement in recovery to the point now where recovery is typically well north of 70%.
You raised some money last year to strengthen the balance sheet. Do you feel like you're robust enough now in the company to withstand this period coming up of while we adjust to these new realities?
I've no doubt, absolutely the right decision. We upsized the raising to ensure that we could get through what was a difficult period in the market, and we believe that we've raised enough money to achieve that aim. So the effect of moderated production, drawing down stockpiles, lowering our unit cost of operation whilst we're in production, has meant that we're not materially utilising cash flow in operations. So that combined with the raising, yes, gives us what we think is a defensive position in light of the difficult market conditions that we experience today.
Where do you see the industry and the wider battery minerals industry, including downstream, in Australia in 4 or 5 years' time?
The big picture, in my view, is still whole. The one that says we have a very competitive spodumene resource base, in certain locations, very significant in scale, typically a reasonable grade with a high-quality spodumene concentrate product with accessible infrastructure. And the combination of those things is not that common. I appreciate the industry's challenge today, and a few projects have been delayed, but within the timeframe you've described, 5 years, I'd say that's going to be a big part of our industry. Interconnected mines, chemical facilities, and likely based here in Western Australia. Where mines are not readily accessible to a local chemical hub, it's still an important resource base. So, for example, I'd point to our relationship with POSCO, where we're looking to interconnect the mine to a chemical facility in South Korea. Probably the next best thing beyond having the chemical project here in Australia. So we'd like to think that we're doing our bit. And then, of course, the other thing is too, again, within that time frame you're describing, within 5 years, everybody will be thinking about the combination of the battery and the car and even the solar pack at home in a completely different light, because the technology is rapidly evolving.
Ken, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time today, and good luck in the coming months as we try and survive the public health crisis, the economic crisis, and every other crisis that's mixed up in with it as well.